and it's on Vimeo and YouTube. But on YouTube, if you look under Venessa Verdugo, then it'll come up.
It's really and this is it's a great photo.
Oh, thank you. My cousin Michael did it. He works for Blizzard, the gaming company, and he designed it.
There we go, even more. That's really good.
Thanks.
Okay. Now we can go back to where you were talking about.
Abigail?
Yeah, and the others. Now, the reason I meant it, what got you interested in doing all this?
Well, actually...
I mean, that's a heavy subject to get involved for a young girl like you.
When I was a child, about 3, I was at my grandmother's house.
Uh-huh.
And I happened to see a news flash. I don't remember what it was about, but it turned out to be, it was a picture of the crime scene of the LaBiancas, the couple who were murdered in Los Feliz the following day after Sharon Tate and Abigail and everyone. And they showed a picture of Rosemary LaBianca, who at that time looked exactly like my grandmother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to my 3-year-old eyes, or 3-year-old, or my little kid eyes, and it really scared me. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what they were saying. I just knew that it was something really awful. I remember them showing words written in blood on the wall, and it looked just like my grandparents' wall. They had similar fixtures on the wall, and my grandmother didn't live too far from there, so the houses, I think, were all pretty much, I think they probably came from the same architect, and that always stuck with me. It was a fear I'd never felt before. It was a fear that nobody, not even my parents, could save me from. And I always remembered that.
Was there violence in your background or anything? Because
my father works, or he's retired, but he worked homicide for about 25 years in the LA Sheriff's
it was just now that some of this is making sense to me. I'm saying, why is this girl? She's dressed in black too. Why is all this? I mean, really. It sounds awful sexy, but it's also very dangerous. And so your father, the homicide, wow.
Yeah. And
that's really...
So I also got to see, when I would go to work with him and stuff.
Really? You would go to work with your father?
Yeah, sometimes.
Wow.
And just seeing the victims and what they, what the crime left behind. And and he also teaches classes to writers and stuff, and the lectures he gives, about the anniversaries of birthdays and Christmas and all the holidays when their loved one isn't there, and the toll it takes on them. So I really got to see a victim's perspective as well, and so it's not so much being attracted to the dark, but I was just raised to have empathy for other people, and
well, you understand the pain.
Yeah.
And actually, as an actor, that's a gift. A lot of people don't realize it, but actors, something like Marty Landau talked about.
Right.
All that pain is a gift for the actor because you get to use it.
Yeah. You don't always, can appreciate it sometimes. Sometimes
right. It sounds
too much.
How could that, pain be such a gift when it really is?
Yeah.
God.
It is.
It's interesting because I was on the other side. I did the time in Attica, Sing Sing. And so I know the other side too.
Right.
Which is...
right.
And what it does to human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sad.
Wow.
But I'm looking at you. So now, this play, the one woman show, you're trying to get it to go again, right?
Yes, I am. I want to do the screenplay version, or I've written the screenplay for it, and I just have to find the right director and that sort of thing. But I also want to bring it back to the stage.
That's what I'm talking about with you.
Because a little more people know about it now that some time has passed, and but I mean, unfortunately, my play, it attracted some people. Somebody wrote a play on Manson and Abigail having an affair.
Maybe that's the one I'm talking about.
Maybe.
Where her father is involved.
Maybe. And through all my research, I have never been able to link her with Manson. Never. I mean, there's all those rumors about this and that. But the only thing is, like as actors, we run into a lot of the same people, like at SAG or what. Maybe in that way, they,
So each other, because everybody was
right,
hanging out and
up in the canyons.
And he did hang out with, the up and coming.
Yeah, exactly.
He was right in there with them, so it's not a.
But she didn't. But they weren't connected in any way.
I just I don't see that.
Yeah.
I don't see that either.
And yeah.
I'm looking at you, and I'm not going to say right away, but are there some women actors, female actors, female, yeah, well,
actresses?
Yes, that you, in the past, that you like?
Yeah.
That you would like to play? Are there some films roles that you would like to?
I would like to play Capucine.
Oh, I remember her.
Or, oh gosh.
If you were going to do a one-woman show, who would you do it on that's an actress? And then I'm going to tell you who I think you should do. I want to listen to you first.
I'd like to do, well, it's already been done, but I'd like to do Edith Head.
Uh-huh.
Capucine. Also, oh gosh, what is her name? I'm going blank. She dated James Dean.
Angela?
Yes, Pierre Angeli.
That's right.
Pierre Angeli.
Well, you're getting close.
Gosh, at the top of my head, that's all I can think of right now.
Well, I could see you doing Anna Mangani.
Oh, yes.
See, I knew.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
I was looking at you.
That'd be great.
That was the first thing I noticed about you. You have that quality that she had.
Oh, really?
It's what they call that
you.
raw sex
Oh,
appeal.
really?
No, really.
Thank
It's called that raw sex appeal. I remember Anthony Francioso said that about her, that she was the sexiest woman he ever met in his life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Anthony
wow.
Quinn said the same thing.
Oh, wow.
But Anthony Francioso told me one day at the studio, we were talking about her.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, wow, yeah, you could play her.
Oh, I'll look into that.
You really should. I have a friend in Italy who's doing it, Lydia Vitali.
Oh, really?
And she does it's called Solo Anna. And you could see it on my Facebook page or look her up.
Oh, okay.
She's brilliant. She looks just like her.
Oh, really?
And she's
Wow.
But it's something I always encourage women to, if you have that quality, and to look into Anna, because she was a gift, and
Yeah.
it's something about her that just
Yeah.
if you can get that down and work on that, and well, I don't know if you have to work it. Something tells me you don't have to work on it. You have a lot of passion in you. I can tell that, and it's ready to break loose. And you're not going to find it in Abigail, though.
No. And people would tell me, "Oh, gee, I didn't want the show to end," and it's like, well, she was 25 years old.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of the tragedy too. She just had so much more to
so
get.
much more to go.
Yeah.
Well, Maria Callas, I was looking today. She was very young.
Yes.
when she died. You know, today's her 90th birthday. I'm saying, but she's dead about, I mean, since 1977.
Yeah. Oh, it's been that long?
I,
Oh, wow.
I just can't, you know, it that long, and so she was young.
Yeah.
And what kind of music? I'm an opera lover myself. But
I like everything. I really like the 60s. Yeah. Especially the whole Coldwater Canyon type scene.
we're going back to the.
Yeah. I like everything, actually.
You like the dark side.
Although,
Going back to Coldwater Canyon and
yeah.
Laurel Canyon, and it's amazing. I always think of that too when I go to Laurel Canyon. The first thing you come to mind is, you know, the murders.
yeah.
Back in the, you know, that's the
But
first.
it was interesting, John, because people that I talk to who aren't in the business or anything, everybody remembers that crime. And they remember, and they each have a story about this one woman. I know, she was living in, I believe it was Detroit at the time. And she was just dreading the fact, because they left some things at the scene, you know, so that it would indicate that it was a black person or the Black Panthers had done the murders.
Yeah.
And she was just dreading the crackdown it was going to take on black people. And she was black. And then I found out that my grandmother, who used to walk to work like at 4 a.m. at a factory, she was terrified, you know, because at the time everybody thought it was just a random, you know, they were just driving everywhere and killing people. And, you know, and my mother, I guess she had an incident where my father was at work and I was a baby, and she heard a door close real slowly, and she didn't know my dad had left the window open in the bathroom, and so it closed real slowly, and I started crying, and she couldn't hear anything, but it really felt like somebody closed the door real slowly, and she, you know, by the time, you know, she figured out nobody was in the house, she was just head to toe in sweat. And Chris Lewis talks about his father Jerry, you know, putting all kinds of cameras everywhere, and I mean, it just shook everybody up.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I mean, the crimes were bad, but also what's so horrible is they took away people's sense of security, and that's a big deal. You know, that's a big deal to be violated in that way.
Yeah, especially for women, and I mean, it's
Yeah.
men don't relate as much
Uh-huh.
to that
Right.
as a woman would. So it's
Uh-huh.
got to be scary.
Yeah.
Cause
Yeah. And it's, yeah, you know.
so actually, when you do these plays, you're really making people aware.
I hope to. I hope.
Yeah.
And when I bring it back, I hope to do even more so.
Now you don't live in LA though anymore. Why is you chose to? Is it getting away from the business or?
No, actually, it's just where I lived, and I spend a lot of time in LA because I house sit
Right.
and take care of people's pets and everything when they're gone.
Oh.
And so I spend most of my time in LA. But and I'm not that far from it, 30 miles.
Oh, well, that's house sitting. That's interesting. And interesting. I mean, you get to. I mean, you probably would be a good writer then, and maybe a director too. You know,
Wow,
you're living in so many different homes and seeing so many different things.
It's interesting, the different walks of life, because I've watched really nice houses in the Hollywood Hills, in that area, and I've also, you know, lower income houses, you know,
Right.
and it's been interesting. It's funny because part of the thing was about the crimes, when Sharon Tate was killed was, well, couldn't anybody hear all the screams that were going on and everything, or just to hear stuff, and when I was watching a house up in the Hollywood Hills, that's when the bling ring was happening. Those teenagers were breaking into people's houses. Well, they broke into someone's house like right down the street, or it's a curvy road, so not right down the street, but I mean just right around the corner. And I remember on the news it saying that somebody, that they broke into someone's house and they struck, and I remember police cars being there and everything. And it's like, I didn't hear anything, and I was up watching TV at that time that they supposedly did it. So it's
also the way they built homes back then. They really built them.
Yeah.
And there was you don't hear what's going on. They really built homes back then. They weren't just pasted together like they are today, where like a cheap motel room. You could hear everything going on, but the noise is you don't hear.
They heard, like gunshots were heard and stuff, but they couldn't tell. People couldn't tell where they were coming from. Yeah,
because you're in the
or if they were firecrackers.
You're in the people,
or people joking around or something.
Well, you ever listen to today when car alarms? I'm always when they go off. Nobody cares. Nobody looks.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's going to stop. And
and if it stops, it's like, oh, I guess the person doesn't need help, or what.
Today the people don't even look.
Right.
When they first come out, So I don't understand why people have them in their car anyway.
That's true. That's true. I mean,
it's a waste of time.
Yeah. And the burglars can turn them off anyway.
They can turn them off, but then nobody's going to care. So
exactly.
It really is. Yeah. Now, are you working on anything now? Is there anything people can see? Do you have a website or anything like that?
I'm on Twitter and Facebook.
Oh.
And I find that all I need is Twitter and Facebook. I don't have my own personal website. Right now, I'm just working on, actually I did a TV pilot for TCD Studios called The Fortune Teller, and I played Joan, the fortune teller, and I have all the answers. I counsel everybody, and then my boyfriend of 10 years leaves me for one of my clients, and I have all the answers until I don't. So, my first episode of that is up on my Facebook page.
Is this a web series, or is this or is it
hopefully
TV?
A TV pilot.
Oh, okay.
But you can also see it on YouTube.
Now, the one you did that's up there now is called what?
Lest You Forget.
Now, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I saw when I looked on YouTube, I was watching it. There was so many other different Lest You Forget. Is that a brand name or?
Well, Barbara Lamar used to sign her autographs. Lest You Forget, Barbara Lamar. And I was afraid that there might be a copyright infringement, so I added the I'm Barbara Lamar. Lest You Forget, I'm Barbara Lamar. Right now, there's a problem with Facebook because, YouTube saying that she's a real person, so there might be some licensing problems.
Yes.
So they took it down under Lest You Forget. But if you look under Venessa Verdugo, Venessa with an E, Venessa, it'll come up.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, on the side they have all the other shows. And it says, lest we forget, all different.
Yeah, it's a saying, I think, kind of...
so I thought maybe that was the name of a series or something.
No, I guess it's just a catchphrase. And
well, that's good to know, so the audience knows that when they look for it.
Yeah.
But they can find them easier probably going to your Facebook page.
Yeah, I have it on there. But if they Google
just Google your name.
It comes up.
It comes up.
It's on Vimeo as well.
It was interesting. And who was the young lady with you?
Actually, her name was Debbie Briggs.
Her name was?
Yeah, and she, actually, I haven't talked to her since. And she filled in at the last minute, and she was awesome.
Yeah, it was an interesting piece. But I would love to see, there's something I would love to see you do something about you, that's closer to you.
Right,
Do you feel she was close to you or no?
Well, I wanted to do her for so long. Well, initially I was going to do a solo show with Barbara Lamar, Abigail Folger, and Karen Cups in it. And all three of them were so interesting that I found that I just couldn't make it, cut them into threes.
You were going to try to do all three in one show?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Why not?
And actually, it would be too long. I mean, there was just so much about each one that I had trouble taking out information to make it shorter and everything. So I wound up just doing something on each of them. And Abigail won out. I started doing Abigail when I was studying with Steve Railsback, and who played Manson, and in the first Helter Skelter. And
did he give you any advice or anything like that? Did he help you with it?
Yeah, it was mostly improv that I did with him and
in his class.
Yeah. And so Abigail kind of won out. I wound up doing something on her first, and it was funny because after I did Abigail, things about Barbara kept coming up. And, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep, so I'd go downstairs and I'd turn on the TV and the lead character in the movie would be named Lamar, or, little things like that. And, so it was like, okay, Barbara, okay, we'll do your piece now. And so I really wanted to get something out there on her because there hadn't been a whole lot done about her, and I think she deserved it. She really did. She really was a pioneer for women, and unfortunately, because of some of the choices she made, I don't think people know about her much.
Well, some of them will know now.
Hopefully.
What were some of the films that people? Do you remember some of the films she was in that people might see, especially on Turner Classics?
Yeah, Turner Classics. They're also on IMDb. The White Moth, Souls for Sale.
I like that title.
The Three Musketeers. The first Three Musketeers.
Really, she was
movie.
in that.
Yeah, and now you can see them online, but. When I first started writing the piece, I had to make an appointment at UCLA and to view the archives.
Oh, yeah. Today YouTube and everything.
Exactly. And
YouTube has everything.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage of it while it's still free.
Exactly. I know. That's how long ago, I started working on this piece. And so it was really nice to just finally bring it to fruition. And, it wasn't necessarily about the money or anything.
Speaking of money, are you the only one in your family in the business, show business?
Pretty much. My father does technical advising work sometimes for Michael Mann and different actors. That's how I met Benicio del Toro. He helped him.
So he's like an acting coach when the guys want to play cops?
Sometimes. He's been in some movies, as an extra and stuff, because Michael Mann likes to use the real thing.
Sure.
And so he'll use him as a real cop. And it was great because I got to meet a lot of people on the movie Heat. I worked in the casting department for Bonnie Timmerman.
Bonnie Timberland, one of the big time.
Yeah.
Quick story about Bonnie Timberland is Shelley Winters always told a story about how she read for Bonnie.
Really?
And Bonnie wanted her to read. And Shelley said she came back and she put her 2 Oscars on the table. And Shelley Winters always taught, the moral of the story was to read, because Bonnie Timberland never called her back,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
she pointed out, always read if they want you to read.
Yeah. And Bonnie was just, oh man, just a wealth of information. You know, it's like she has her reasons for everything, and she knows so much. You know, I mean, she knew who Shelley was.
Yes.
That's why she called her in.
Yes.
So Shelley really didn't need to do that. You know, it's she and Bonnie had her reasons for things, or has her reasons for things, and I mean, she's
well,
a
that's
pro.
what Shelley Winters said, and she said this at the studio, actor's studio.
That's what makes Bonnie a legend. You
Yes.
know, in her work. You know, she
is.
So,
She's a New York
yeah,
casting director.
exactly.
Which where the real actors come from anyway.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I learned so much as a young actress watching the auditions.
That's amazing. We could have did a whole new story about you, the casting. We've got a few minutes. What was that like sitting in, working in the casting department?
Amazing.
Were you jealous?
Sometimes it was just like, well, how come I'm not here? I'm not reading, or there really wasn't a part for me in there or anything.
Well, I mean, in general, I mean, I remember in New York, the hardest person to get past was the secretary in the casting director's office. Is when Harvey Keitel talked about it. He always went past him. But, you know, you go up there, and I remember in New York, I went up for the movie, they were doing the movie Attica on TV. And I went up there, and she said, you're not the type. I said, I was there.
Yeah. Wow.
And then again, when they did the movie, Frankenheim, it was the officer Smith, I was on his gang. And I still couldn't get a reading. I didn't have the nerve to, you know. That's twice, and I was there.
Right.
And it's just amazing. But Bonnie Timberland, it's amazing that you mentioned her name.
Oh.
So you really, I mean, you've been around, and you have a wealth of experience.
I mean, it was because Michael likes to have everybody in the same building. You know, the costume designers, the location scouts, casting. So it was great. You know, I'd go into the kitchen and I'd see Robert De Niro pouring himself a cup of coffee. Or, you know, just different, you know, I met so many different people. And it was just, and I got spoiled because after that, I worked for another casting director who wasn't nearly as big. And it was like, well, why can't we just call so-and-so and have them come in? And it's like, because the budget isn't big enough and it's not a movie they do.
And they won't answer their calls either.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like...
Bonnie Timberland calls people...
Exactly.
They're
there in a few minutes.
Yeah. What's that famous commercial? It's a very...
when pain
somebody
listens.
calls... everybody listens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what it...
That's certainly with Bonnie Timberland, yes. I remember. And Joy Todd was the biggest for extras back in New York.
Oh, wow.
Back then. No, I remember those days. God, I don't know if I never read for... I came out here in 85, so I never read for Bonnie Timberland. I was an actor in 1967, then I went away. Then when I came out, long story, but that's long story. So, here we go again. Tell everybody your name.
My name's Venessa Verdugo.
Verdugo, yes, I'll put that up there. And you're on Twitter.
Twitter and Facebook.
Is it that you're just that name?
Venessa Verdugo.
On Twitter.
VENESSA.
Yeah, well,
VERDUGO.
Okay. So maybe I'll see you up at SAG. I'm going to be there. This will go up today.
Oh, really? Great.
And when I see you again, I'll